The three demons emerged from the gate, greeted with cheers from the other officers. Well done. I'm very proud indeed. Carrera slapped Agera on the back a few times. It almost killed him. I have some refreshments ready for all of you. A set of freshly brewed tea and sandwiches was flawlessly laid out on a table. This was Zonda's work, and it too was well received. Putting other issues aside for later, Esprit handed the Red Bull to Carrera. Here is the soul of that foul-mouthed man. His hardcore is locked inside, so his ego is still there. Nice, Esprit. Now we can punish this fool for insulting Sir Remure. We sure can. By the way, Carrera, can you leave that job to me? Carrera tossed the ball at the interrupting Ultima. If it's alright with Benimaru, I don't mind. Whatever you want. She didn't need to ask. Benimaru had no interest in torturing the dead, and it's not like he could do anything with people's souls anyway, so he had little recourse but to leave this matter to the demons. Normally he find it against his principles to do anything further to an opponent after the duel was over. But Garcia's comments truly were unacceptable this time. Benimaru wasn't going to intervene for him, and so the soul went into Ultima's hands. Wonderful. Now, let's get started. Crazed Vendetta Expiation. This was a deadly poison, one invented and refined by Ultima. It wasn't a physical one, but instead one that destroyed the spiritual body and ate into the astral one as well. There was no way for this Red Bull, the embodiment of a soul, to withstand it. Garcia screamed out in agony. Stop. Stop it. But Ultima just laughed and laughed. Yes, yes. Look how effective this is. What kind of effect is it, exactly? Asked Tensura. She knew, of course, but wanted it spelled out for Garcia. Well, it applies continual, unending pain until the power housed within the soul wears off. This one had a lot of energy, so I think he'll get to enjoy it for a long time to come. And once it's done, maybe in about 1,000 years, he'll be reborn as a clean, unblemished soul. Ultima was only too eager to explain. Garcia, meanwhile, could only weep in silence. He wondered where he went wrong, although it was too late for that now. Ah, yes, good for him. I'm sure he's thanking you right now for letting him atone for his sins. Tensura smiled warmly. Benimaru sincerely doubted any of that, but this time, he would offer their victims no quarter. Besides, they had Zonda's nice little tea break to enjoy. You know, Esprit said, internally wondering if they had time for this break. When Agera started talking about not being able to win, I wasn't sure what I was going to do. Now that things were peaceful again, she felt safe lodging this couch complaint. She knew Agera would have some kind of plan, but she was still bitter about being so spectacularly taken advantage of. I didn't say that we couldn't win, Agera retorted, but to tell the truth, he wasn't entirely convinced his strategy would work. All was well now, of course, but if Blade Transform failed on him, there really was no plan B left. Right, but you should have at least discussed it with me beforehand. It's fine now that we won, but if we didn't, you'd be too dead to ever atone for it. For someone like Esprit who almost never left her safe zone during battle, she hadn't been in such dire straits like that in ages. It made her all the more irritated toward Agera. Well, said Ultima with a smile, certainly, you would never have been allowed to lose there. I definitely wouldn't allow it. Besides, Sir Remure might not be angry if we lose, but he would be if we die. Yeah, I agree. And that's why I was watching over you guys via Esprit. Carrera seemed like she was taking a hands-off approach, but if Agera's team looked like they were on the ropes, she would have been the first to rush in. Along those lines, the real battle for Remure's top officers was about to kick off. And maybe it was a little impertinent of her, but Esprit wanted to be prepared for what came next. She began, a little uneasily, is Lady Shion well? We finished our battle, but I don't see her here. She assumed Shion would be just fine. Now she was suddenly worried. No problems there, Benimaru nonchalantly replied. I have a feeling she's forgetting her mission here, but it doesn't seem like she's struggling at all. So he nodded his agreement. She's overzealous as always, indeed. She should know repeating the same old attacks wouldn't work. She needs to consider other approaches. Esprit wondered about this. It was almost like they were watching her fight. So you're aware of what's going on in there? It was Tensura who asked for her. Well, of course. I'm staying here in case something happens to our higher officials, you see. Carrera and Ultima spat out their tea simultaneously. Huh. Well wait, Tensura. Are you saying that you know what's going on beyond the gates without Esprit's reports? Absolutely. Tensura's smile deepened as she looked at them both. Then it suddenly dawned on Carrera. And are you watching Sir Remure in battle as well? Ah. Ultima jumped to her feet as the possibility occurred to her. That's so unfair, Tensura. Seriously, that's awful. And Diablo's the same way. Why do you always act like all that matters is what you want? Don't you think you could have invited us along, maybe? Carrera and Ultima were pretty riled by this. But Tensura kept up her cool face. So did Benimaru and Zoe. Intelligence gathering was one of their assigned duties, and this was a match they could never miss out on. Incidentally, Shion was totally unaware of this one reason why she was so eager to jump into a gate first. If she was watching Rimura's fight, she never would have moved from the spot until it was over. Benimaru, aware of this, kept it a secret from Shion instead. Regardless, Carrera and Ultima were clearly miffed about it. Benimaru had no choice but to explain himself. So as you see, Moss's monitoring skills are very convenient. We had him infiltrate all 8 gates so we could set up a monitor for each one. It apparently was working without a hitch, which meant Moss was still on the job. Benimaru gave him strict orders to remain on standby, making sure the enemy didn't detect him. I see. I had tried the other gates as well, but I can't even touch any of them. It looks like this dimension is treating Agera as the victor. Yes, and I cannot enter, either. Of course Onda couldn't. All he did was brute in there. But Esprit was also locked out from the next challenge, it seemed. Vulgrin's judging standards were still a little unclear, but it now appeared that once you entered a gate, you could not enter any other, unless you directly defeated the enemy inside. About what we expected, isn't it? Yeah. It was smart to have them go in first. Benimaru, Zoe, and Tensura nodded at each other. Right, so if one of us is having a hard time, then Tensura will come in to support us. That's correct. I doubt that will be necessary, and I have other things on my mind anyway, but if it comes to that, I'll be there. I'd like to think there's no need, but we do have Sir Rimura's orders to consider. We need sure victories here, so don't be overeager. Carrera smiled boldly as she spoke. Benimaru and the others nodded, all feeling the same way. Then Benimaru frowned a bit. Carrera, I wouldn't let my guard down around your opponent if I were you. Well, certainly not, but why? His name was Kondo, right? Well, he's the only one so far who spotted Moss. A single bullet took his replication out. Wow. How interesting. Carrera kept smiling, more fascinated by than fearful of her opponent's strength. Knowing you, Tensura said, I'm sure I have nothing to worry about, but if something goes terribly wrong, call for help through Esprit. Carrera raised a hand, her attitude making it clear that she didn't see that as necessary. Tensura smiled back. This was typical Carrera behavior. So the attack on the gates resumed. One was still being tackled by Shion, so that left 6, and with the exception of the one protected by Velgrind, now 5 gates were being stormed at once. Shion, now alone, was in for a struggle. She was all smiles and excitement outside the gate, but now there was a look of dreadful murder on her face. Her opponent here was Minaza, a single-digit rank 6 in the Empire. She was one of the 4 knights who guarded Lidora as well, and Shion was now breathing heavily as she glared at her. I must praise you for making this so difficult for me, she shouted, her voice full of raging spirit. Minaza was far from unscathed, either. Her uniform was torn up, exposing bare skin here and there, but there was no damsel in distress allured to that look. She had long since stopped using mimicry to hide her true form. She had to, if she wanted to give her all here. Shut up. You're the one who deserves to be praised for your futile efforts. I commend you for defeating my children, but you've made me angry, and I will rule the day. At Minaza's feet was an ominously large number of insectoid corpses. All of them had been slaughtered by Shion. And as an insector, a higher plane of existence over insectoids, she wasn't kidding about the children part. Ha! Those little grubs are nothing to me. I've seen training grounds filled with far more powerful insectoids, so I'm quite used to it. What did you say? He. Too bad for you, but I'm a lot more experienced than I look. If you think you're the first insect magic born I've ever fought, you're wrong. Shion was tired, but still had plenty of energy left. She looked down on Minaza, smiling smugly. Come to think of it, Razzle was more of an insector than insectoid, wasn't he? He called it his complete form, if I recall correctly, so that must have been it. Minaza's expression changed. Razzle. You're the one who defeated the Guardian of the West. Shion sniffed at this. I didn't take him on alone, but yes, I dealt the final blow. He was a formidable opponent. I see, Minaza muttered. Then she turned her face down and began snickering. So you got rid of him for me. He betrayed us, you know. We are known as aggressors, a group of invaders from another world, but when Emperor Lidora accepted us, we finally found a safe haven for ourselves. But he refused to pledge his allegiance to us, continuing with his self-serving behavior instead. Truly the most unforgivable of fools. This all went straight over Shion's head. She rewarded Minaza's speech with a "what the hell are you talking about?" look. But one thing did bother her, so she decided to take this opportunity to ask. Do you mean to say that it's not just Razzle? You have your people in other parts of the world. Shion was curious about her friends Zijin and Apido. If Minaza knew them, maybe it wasn't such a good idea to kill her after all. She wanted to be sure before she made the attempt. There are many sentient species in our homeworld. Aggressors like us use an underworld gate to reach this world. There are insectors like ourselves, along with the cryptids, with whom we share many traits. That, and there are the mystics as well. Unlike demons, we are semi-spiritual life forms, so we may freely manifest ourselves in this world, as long as we have ample time. Shion didn't really care if she got an answer, but Minaza was nice enough to give one anyway. This underworld gate reminded her of the gates of hell, something near and dear to Diablo, and the other demons, but it sounded like Minaza's world featured 3 major races vying for supremacy. It existed in parallel with the hell the demons called home, and as Minaza described it, it faced severe poverty and food shortages. Thus aggressors like her looked for every chance to invade this world.